Okay, welcome. My name is Miss Kim or Kimberly, and you are welcome to call me Kim or Kimberly. I am the Curator of Education here at the Florence County Museum, and I'm so excited for our first afternoon art club. Today we're going to be talking about linear perspective. Now before we get started, I want to go over a couple of Zoom navigation things with you, just so that I know that you know how to operate Zoom. You may have used Zoom before, but just in case, even if you haven't, I do want to go over these couple of things with you. So down on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a mute symbol. That's the bottom left-hand corner. It looks like a microphone. And you can also see, if you look at our pictures on the top or the side, wherever those screens are showing up for you, if you see a little microphone with a red slash through it, that means you're muted. And if you do not see a microphone with a red slash, then you are not muted, just so you know. So the other thing I want to tell you about is our chat box. So down at the very bottom, you will see a chat icon. And if you click on that icon, then our chat box will show up on the right-hand side. Right now, I have everyone muted. And as people come in, they will also be muted. But I'm also going to drop a couple of PDF files into our chat box. If you got a kit from the museum, then these worksheets were in your kit. And if you did not get a kit from the museum, then these worksheets were not in your kit. So you also have them via email. I've sent them all via email, but if you did not get them, you can download them from our chat box. You just click on it and download it, and you can print those or use those at home for anything that you need. And even if you did get a kit here at the museum and you want some extra practice sheets, you can download those right from our chat box on the right-hand side. If everybody will just say hello in the chat box, just tell me your first name in our chat box. Now the chat box does not go in the video recording, just so you know, so it's just here. But if you would go to the chat box and say hello in the chat box, that's how I know that that it's operating. You can hear me, everything's going okay. All right. I said hello. Looks like everyone else here has said hello so far too. Okay, good deal. So everybody's with me. Now the way we're going to use the chat box in the recording is, if you have a question, please ask it in the chat box. I will at the end give a chance for everybody to speak if you have a question. So the last few minutes we'll let everybody talk if you have any questions. But we're going to primarily be asking questions in the chat box as I'm talking. So if you have any questions, please put them there. The only other thing that I want to say before we start is that we have a couple of ground rules for Afternoon Art Club. We're going to ask everyone to please be respectful and kind to each other. There will be a time in Afternoon Art Club where we're sharing our screen and we're telling other people about the work that we've created. And I really want to make sure that you guys are being respectful to each other and kind. And I know that that's not going to be a problem, but I always like to go over that to start. So the first thing I'm going to do is share a little PowerPoint presentation that I have about perspective drawing. Now, how many of you guys have done perspective drawing before? If you have done perspective drawing before, just throw that in the chat box. The perspective is something you're familiar with. You've done it at school. Maybe you've done it on your own. Please tell me in the chat box if you have done perspective drawing before. But if you haven't, you're going to be able to learn about that with me today, and we're going to get started. We're going to be doing a perspective drawing this month. Great, so some of you have, that's awesome. So we are going to be doing a perspective drawing together in Afternoon Art Club this month. But, hold on one second. I'm trying to share my screen with you and I just did something not right. But, hold on. I just want to make sure my settings are correct. so that you can see it. Okay, I've got that. I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to talk a little bit about perspective drawing. I'm also going to show you some examples of perspective drawing from our collection here at the museum. So let me pull that up. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to share this, share, and I'm actually going to do this. Okay, guys. Hold on one moment. It's trying to share with you. Let me try it again. Try one more time. Share. Okay, very good. So hopefully everybody can see that. I'm going to open the chat box so that if you have any questions that I can see that. Okay, so remember, if you have questions, please just throw them in the chat box and I'm right here with you. So let's talk a little bit about linear perspective before we get started drawing our own. What is linear perspective? Linear perspective is a way of creating the illusion of depth on a flat surface. So for those of you who have done this before, you may know that you can make it look on a flat piece of paper like your drawing is going back into space. And that's exactly what we want to do by using linear perspective. In linear perspective, all parallel lines meet at a vanishing point on the horizon line. And those are going to be two really important words that we use in Afternoon Art Club: vanishing point and horizon line. So again, if you have questions about any of this, throw it in the chat box. But those two vocabulary words are going to be really important for us. So the first one, horizon line. The horizon line in any painting or drawing or artwork is where the sky meets the land. So where the sky meets the land, it's usually a horizontal line across the paper, and that's the horizon line. The vanishing point in a perspective drawing is the point where all the lines that are going back into space seem to meet. Now, you can have more than one vanishing point, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. So I'm going to move forward. So with 1 point perspective, we're going to do some perspective practice here in a minute, but with 1 point perspective, lines that are going back into space all meet at 1 point. So, for example, this is an artwork by William Henry Johnson, and you can see that the lines of the road, even though they're kind of curved, I'm going to back up, sorry about that. The lines of the road, even though they're kind of curved, all go back to right about the center of the painting. And the left side of the road and the right side of the road seem to curve and all meet at that point right in the center of the painting, where the road sort of seems to end. So this is just one example of a painting that uses perspective by William Henry Johnson. Here's another example. This is not a painting, this is an etching. It's a different type of artwork. But if you follow the lines of the road, you can see that they don't go straight. They're kind of diagonal lines that are leading sort of to the center of the paper. So if we follow those diagonal lines, the one on the left and the one on the right, they would probably meet somewhere right around the door of that church that's right in the center of the paper. So this is an example. These are both examples of 1 point perspective. Now we're going to actually be doing a project that uses 2 point perspective this month. So the middle schoolers are going to be doing a project using 2 point perspective. With 2 point perspective, there are 2 vanishing points, not just 1. So this may be something you're familiar with, and it may not be something you're familiar with, but we are going to try that out. Let's see here. So let me show you some examples of 2 point perspective. So this is a work by Anna Hayward Taylor. She was a printmaker. This is a woodblock print. But if you take a look at the building, this sort of front building, you can see the corner of the building and what looks like a street that goes to the left and a street that goes to the right. This uses 2-point perspective. So if we follow the lines of the road to the left and follow the lines of the curb to the right, then we can find 2 vanishing points, one on the left side and one on the right side. Now I'm going to show you some other examples of this as well, but you can also follow the roof line. So not the line at the very top of the roof, but where the roof meets the building. If you follow that line down, it would meet with the line of the curb over on the right-hand side. And the same thing on the left. If you follow that line, it would meet with the line of the curb on the right-hand side. The left and the right. I got them mixed up. Okay. I have one more example of 2-point perspective. If you take a look at the cart in this lithograph, this is by an artist named Palmer Shoppy. If you take a look at the cart, we can see the corner of the cart is closest to us, and the sides of the cart, keeps wanting to flip on me, the sides of the cart go down to the right and down to the left. This is using 2-point perspective. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how to draw a 2-point perspective today. I'm going to stop sharing this, and go back. Hopefully everybody can see me. Again, if you have questions, if you have any questions, please make sure to let me know. If you have questions, please let me know. For those of you who are just joining, we are learning about 1- and 2-point perspective, and I've just presented a little PowerPoint. If you missed that, you'll be able to catch it in the recording, which will be tomorrow. We'll have it online by tomorrow at noon. But now I want to switch to showing you what is on my desktop. I'm going to share my screen with you and show you what's on my desktop. And we're going to do some examples. I'm going to show you some examples of perspective drawing. And we are going to use some little worksheets. So let me go ahead and share my other screen. Hopefully you'll be able to see that here. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see what looks like my desktop, and it may kind of keep focusing on us here, and that's okay. I'm gonna pull up my chat screen, and if you will just verify that you can see, just answer in your chat screen that you can see what we've got going on here, that would be really helpful. So everybody can see what I've got? Everybody can see the screen? All right, I see some I can see, so that's a good sign. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, this is an example of 1-point perspective, and you guys have this worksheet. If you picked up a kit from us, you have the worksheet in your kit. If you did not pick up a kit from us, you have this worksheet. I emailed it to you, but I've also dropped it in the chat box here. So you can download it, just scroll to it from the chat box. The 1-point perspective practice sheet and the 2-point perspective practice sheet are right there. So we're going to, I want to show you how to just do some basic perspective. For those of you who may not have done perspective before, I want to show you just something really, really simple with 1-point perspective, and then show you how to draw in 2-point perspective. That one's upside down. But we're going to do this same practice sheet together as well in 2-point perspective. So let me show you that. I'm going to grab something here. Okay. All right, so let me grab my practice sheets and we will get started. One moment. Okay, guys, so for those of you who may or may not have done perspective drawing before, I'm just going to do one of these for you so that you can kind of catch on to what we're doing. Also going to see if I can lock that so that it's not. Okay. All right. That should kind of help things a little bit. Actually don't want that to show up though. Maybe it'll go away. Hang tight here. Okay. So, okay. So here's our vanishing point worksheet. We're going to use this sheet to just learn a little bit about how perspective works for those of you who may not be familiar. So the things that you're going to need to do this are a ruler. So I just have this ruler here and a pencil and your practice sheet. So if you did not get a kit from us and you just picked or you just supplied your own supplies and you were not able to print this sheet, it's really, really easy to make one. All you have to do is put a horizontal line across the paper. So you just do a horizontal line across your paper, and then you, hold on one second, I'm gonna try to make this stop doing that. One second, guys, sorry about that. I'm just trying to make it work a little bit better so that it's not going so crazy on us. I may not be able to fix it, but okay. So a horizontal line across, and then you're just gonna pick any point to draw a dot, and that's your vanishing point. So this horizontal line is our horizon line, and the vanishing point we've put right here in the center. Now, in order to draw these shapes in 1-point perspective to make them look like forms that are going back into space, we just need to connect the corners of these shapes with the vanishing point. So what I'm going to do is take my ruler and I'm going to connect it from this corner to my vanishing point and draw a line. Now you can do this along with me, or you can do it on your own. It's completely up to you. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to connect this corner to the vanishing point, draw a line. And then I'm going to connect this corner to the vanishing point and draw a line. Just like that. Now, it looks like this form is going back into space. Now, to make it a cube that sort of ends, we can draw some horizontal and vertical lines. I'll start with a vertical line right here. Can darken that. And then I can draw a horizontal line right here across, just like this. And now I have a cube. Now I can always go in and erase these extra guidelines that I have here, but I don't have to. I can leave them. But this is how we draw using perspective to make it look like a form is going back into space. Now, this corner, we did not connect this corner to the vanishing point. And the reason for that is because we don't ever want to draw a line through the middle of our shape. So if the line goes through the middle of the shape, you just leave that one out. It's it's kind of the back of the form, so it's hidden. So this is just a really simple way to practice 1-point perspective, just so you get the hang of it. If it's something that's new to you, it might be a little bit tricky. And so this is a great practice sheet. I'm not going to spend any more time on this because we do have a 2-point perspective sheet that we're going to be using together. So I'm going to go over to this one. Now this is the 2-point perspective worksheet that was in your kit, or if you got it via email and printed it out, or if you did not get it via email and print it out, or were not able to print it out, again, it's easy to make one yourself. Just draw a horizontal line across your paper with your ruler. That's going to be your horizon line. You can see it labeled there. And then you're going to draw 2 vanishing points. Remember, this is 2-point perspective. So this is going to give us sort of a corner view of a cube. And so we're going to draw some cubes today. And so I have vanishing point 1 over on the left side of my paper, and vanishing point number 2 on the right side of my paper. It's a good idea to label these if you're just starting out so that you'll understand which point to go to. So we're going to start by drawing a cube in the center of the paper. So this one is going to be on the horizon line. The line is equally above and below the horizon line. So what I'm going to do is these are just vertical lines, and I drew one above, one on, and one below the horizon line. So if you're making this sheet yourself, just draw one vertical line on the horizon line, one above it, and one below it. All right, so I'm going to connect this bottom of my horizontal or my vertical line with the vanishing point number 1, just like that. And I drew a line. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to connect the top with vanishing point number 1, just like that. So this is the very first part of drawing a cube in 2-point perspective. Again, if you have questions, please throw this in the chat box. All right, so again, connect the bottom of the vertical line to vanishing point number 2 now. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. All right, so now this is sort of the corner of our cube, and you can see one side going back into space in that direction to the right, and one going back into space to the left. Now, to sort of define the edges of our cube, we're going to just draw some vertical lines here between my 2 guidelines. One here and one here. I didn't measure this, I just kind of picked a spot. And there is my cube on the horizon line. That would be looking straight ahead. If I were just looking straight ahead on the horizon line, going back into space to the right and to the left. So this is the simplest of them. Now, if we're looking at something that's above the horizon line, let's pretend that we're looking up into a tree at a box, maybe a tree house. That's going to be important because we're going to do something with that idea in a few moments. But let's say we're looking at a tree house, and we're going to do the same thing with this cube that we did with the last one. So we're going to connect guidelines to vanishing point number 2 and to vanishing point number 1 from the top and the bottom of the vertical line. So there's 1 and 2, just like that, and 1 and 2, just like that. Okay, now I didn't do a great connection right there. I might redo that one for you. It does matter if you're precise. The more precise you are with your drawing, the better result you're going to have. So there we go, going down to the left and going down to the right. Now, if there were a box up in a tree, or like a tree house, for example, we would see the bottom of the tree house. This would be the bottom of the tree house. So we need to get those lines in perspective as well. So let me show you how we do that. To get the bottom of the tree house in perspective, we're going to start out by drawing our vertical sides, just like we did before. So we're going to draw a vertical line on the right and on the left, just like that, to get our sides. But we know this needs to be the bottom of the box. We need to be able to see that. And so in order to get that, we need to do a crisscross. Okay, so we're going to create a crisscross. So on the left-hand side, we're going to join this line to the vanishing point on the right-hand side. So our first line is going to match to vanishing point number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and join that with vanishing point number 2. Okay, so that line's going this direction. And then I'm going to join our second vertical line with vanishing point number 1. So we're crisscrossing those to show the bottom of the box. It's a crisscross, just like that. So now this area is the bottom of our box. We could take that area and darken it in if we want, so we could tell a little bit better what is our box and what is our guidelines. But you can see now we have a box that looks like it's up in the air, and we can see three sides of it: the left side, the right side, and the bottom. Now, I'm not going to do this bottom one for you. This is very, very similar to the one we just did. But instead of seeing the bottom of the box, we'll see the top of the box on this one. And I'm going to leave this for you to do on your own. This will be very good practice, practicing which vanishing point to go to. If you get confused about this as you're working on it, just go back tomorrow when the video is posted, go back and watch this section of the video again and watch this box and try to do that same thing on the bottom. When you're finished, it should look like this. Whoops, I got it upside down. When you're finished, it should look something like this. Now you can put your vertical lines closer on one side and farther apart on one. That looks more like a rectangular cube than a square cube. But this is the idea. You should have something that looks similar to this when you have finished your perspective drawing practice sheet. Now, the last thing that I want to do with you today is show you what our project for this month will be. Now, we're going to be working together to draw a 2-point perspective treehouse. And this is an example of one I've started drawing today. And I'm going to give you some guidance on how to get started on this. And you can either follow along with me as I work, or you can just watch and then watch the video and follow along with the video however you would like. But today, my goal in the next few minutes is to give you the starting steps of this, enough for you to be able to get started doing this on your own. Yours does not need to look exactly like mine, so we're not necessarily trying to make this look exactly like mine. We're just trying to, I'm trying to show you the basic outline of this, and then I want to see how creative you can be with how interesting and different you can make your treehouse. So everybody's going to be doing something similar to this. These are just the first steps. This is not a completed work of art. We'll be working throughout the month of October. Next time that you log in, not next week, but the next week when you log in, we'll be doing some more work on this. So between now and then, I would like you to get as much of the drawing part of this completed as you can. So let's talk about how we're going to make our 2-point perspective treehouse. You're going to need two things. You're going to need a sheet of paper, just a sheet of white paper. This sheet is just 8.5 by 11. Let this thing focus here on my hand. There we go. So you're just going to need a sheet of paper that's 8.5 by 11. And this is a strip of paper that I've cut off of a sheet of paper. You can see it's the same height. It's 11 inches high. And it's just a strip. I just cut it with some scissors down a different sheet of paper. And I'm going to need that as well. So the first step is going to be to set up our horizon line and our vanishing points. So I'm going to start by drawing a horizontal line on my paper. So I can do this in the very middle, or I can do it a little bit higher than the middle, but I'm going to shoot for just right in the middle. I want to get a horizontal line on my paper, and I want to draw it lightly. As we're drawing this tree house, you want to keep all your lines light lines until you need to darken them. That way it's easy to erase lines you don't want, and you can choose which lines you do want. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is take this strip of paper, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line on this strip of paper as well. It does not have to be right in the middle. It doesn't matter if it's in the middle or not. I just want to get a horizontal line. Mine's not right in the middle. I just want to get a horizontal line on my paper. And I want to go ahead and make my vanishing points on this strip of paper. Now the reason we're using the strip of paper is because our paper is not actually wide enough to use both vanishing points. The vanishing points would run off the paper. And so this is actually going to help us keep ourselves organized with our vanishing points. And I'm going to label them VP1 for vanishing point 1 and VP2 for vanishing point number 2. All right, now I'm going to put this sheet of paper, this strip of paper, behind my sheet of paper, and I'm going to just try to center it up. Now, I can do one of a couple of things. I can tape this with a little piece of tape just on the back, or I'm going to actually use my glue stick, and I want you to watch how simply I do this, because it is not, I don't use a lot of glue. I use just a teeny tiny bit of glue. So this is where my horizon line is, and I'm going to put one tiny dot of glue there, just one dot. I didn't even rub it around, I just put a dot. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to find where my vanishing point is and just put a dot. Just enough to hold this in place while I'm working, but it's also such a small amount of glue that it'll be easy to take this strip of paper off when I'm done. So now this is stuck on with just a teeny tiny dot of glue. So you can use glue or tape, whatever you have accessible to you, but just something that will hold this strip of paper on the back. You can see that that's on the back of my paper, not on the front. Okay? Now, if you have little pencil marks on your paper, you can erase as you go. That's totally fine. Okay. So now I have my horizon line and I have my 2 vanishing points that I'm going to be using. Now I want to establish where my tree is, because this is a tree house, just like in this one. I need to know where my tree is so I know where my house needs to be. So I'm going to just choose a spot in the center of my paper. And I'm not going to, you could measure so that it's exactly in the center if you would like, but I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. And I'm gonna put 2 light vertical lines. I'm not going from the very top to the very bottom. I just kind of left some space at the top and at the bottom. But I'm gonna put 2 light vertical lines here. All right. Now they're not dark because I don't want these lines to necessarily be permanent. I may want to change the way my tree looks. For example, here, my tree is a little bit more curvy and organic. It's not 2 straight vertical lines. So I want to be able to change that without having to erase too hard. The strip of paper should be, someone asked how large the strip of paper should be. My strip of paper is 11 inches wide, and it doesn't really matter how, or 11 inches long on the long end. It doesn't really matter how wide it is. It could be 1 inch, it could be 2 inches, just big enough to put a line and some dots on. I think mine's 2 inches, but it doesn't have to be exact at all. Okay, that was a good question. All right, so now I have 2 vertical lines. These are the lines of my tree on my paper. The next thing I want to do is establish where my tree house is. Now, I'm going to pause for just a second. We started this video just a little bit late, so I'm going to keep going. If you have to log off at 4:45, which is when our class ends, then that's totally fine. This video is going to keep rolling, and then you can watch the recording tomorrow if you need to. You're welcome to stay. I'll be here, but if for some reason you need to go, never fear, you can watch the video. So back to our paper. We have 2 vertical lines that are going to be our tree, and now I want to put my tree house in my tree. So we know that tree houses are normally up in the tree, so I'm standing on the ground looking up at my tree house. This is the horizon line, right? And if you want to label that, you can with like an HL, and I'll just label it off on the side on my strip of paper. That helps me keep track of what lines are what. So this is my horizon line. So I'm going to put my box up here. So I know, just like in my practice sheet, that I need to start with a vertical line. So I'm going to choose a spot where I know I want my tree house to be, and I'm going to draw a vertical line. And I'm going to make it just a few inches long. Let's see how long mine is. It's about 4 inches long. It doesn't have to be that long. It can be smaller. It could be a little bit larger, but it is above the horizon line. You can clearly see that it is above the horizon line. That's important. Now, I'm going to connect the top and the bottom of my lines to the vanishing points, just like I did on the practice sheet. And I'm going to do this lightly. Remember that we want all of our lines to be kind of light so that if we want to erase them, that it's not hard to do that. We can always darken in the lines, but it's hard to erase lines that you've made that are too dark. So my lines going to the left, I connect to the left vanishing point, and my lines going to the right, I connect to my right vanishing point. And you can see that here. So even though it's run off the paper right there, it's still, you can still tell what I wanted to do. Okay, so now I have a box and it's kind of around my tree, and that's just fine. That's just what I want. And I'm going to decide where I want the walls of my tree house to be. So I'm going to make a line right here. That's where this one will be. And then I want this one. I know this is the trunk of my tree, so I want to make sure that the other wall of my tree house is on the other side of my tree. I have one wall on the left side, and I want the other wall on the right side so that I know that my tree goes all the way through my tree house. So I'm going to bring it over here, maybe a little bit more, and draw this line. Just like that, okay? So now I could start to darken in my lines, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I don't want to do it quite yet. I need to be able to see the bottom of my tree house. Remember, just like in our practice sheet, we're going to crisscross those lines. So I'm going to find my line on the left, and I'm going to attach it to my vanishing point on the right, just like this. And I'm going to find my line on the right and attach it to the vanishing point on the left in order to get the bottom of my house, or the bottom of my tree house, just like this. All right, so now if I want to, I could go ahead and darken in some of these lines, because now I kind of know what's my tree house and what is not my tree house. So I could go ahead and darken in lines. I'm gonna just darken these in a little bit. I'm not gonna make them too dark because I may still be doing some erasing when I add some details to my tree house. But that gives me the basic structure right there. Here's my tree house and here's my tree. Now, at this point, you can erase anything that's inside your box. So I'm gonna erase the lines of my tree, just like that. I'm going to erase the lines, your guidelines, if you want to erase those, guys. You're kind of done with those. You can leave some of them if it helps you to understand what you've done, but you don't need them at this point. So now I have what looks like a cube sort of on a tree. So let me show you how to make it look more like there's a tree going through your tree house. I'm going to kind of take the lines of my tree where my tree meets my box. This is the vertical line of my tree. I know that's a little hard to see. I can darken that in a little so you can see it better. These are the lines of my tree. And I'm going to take them and I'm going to make a curved line. So I'm just going to make a curved line kind of like this from one side to the other, just like that. And I'm going to erase any lines that are right under that curved line. And now it kind of looks like I have a tree going through the middle of my box. That curved line helped make it look like the tree goes right through the middle of my tree house. So you can darken the lines that you want to keep at this point, like that. All right, everybody with me so far? I hope so. Now, if you would like to add things like a window or a door, if you have things that you would like to add to your tree house, let me show you how to do that. Let's say that you want to add a roof onto your tree house. In order to add a roof, we need to find the center of our tree house so that we know where the point of the roof goes. So, for example, we are going to find the center point of this side. So to find the center point, we're going to make a little crisscross here, just like this. Again, I'm drawing this lightly. This crisscross tells us the center of our line. Because it's going back into space, it's not actually the middle from, if you were to measure from here to here and just find the center, it's actually a little bit farther to the left than that. So we found the center point, right in the middle of that X is our center point. We're gonna make a vertical line, just a light vertical line going up like that through the center, just like that. And then to make our roof, we can just connect the top of our line, wherever we want it to be. If I wanted a smaller roof, I could bring it down here. If I want a tall roof, it's up here. I'm gonna connect that line to my house on the left and on the right, just like a roof connects. Just like that. So now we have the roof. And you can erase those lines now. You don't need the X or that vertical line. You can erase all that stuff. That is your roof line. Now, if we want the roof line, we want to see the top of that roof line, we need to connect the very tip of this over to our vanishing point, right over there. So, there we go. We're going to connect that to our vanishing point, just like that. And to find the back side of our roof, we just need to take this angle. You can just take your ruler and you can put it on the angle of the right-hand roof angle. And then just kind of keep your ruler at that angle and go to the back side of the roof right there and draw that line. So you just want this angle to be about the same as that one. And then you can darken those lines like so, and erase. Okay, so now we have a tree house with a roof. We can take the tree lines coming out of the middle. Anything you don't need can go away, just like that. And I want to show you one more thing about I want to show you quickly how to make doors and windows, and then I want to show you how to make a ladder coming up to your tree house. Then that's going to be it for today. I'm going to ask you guys to just try to think about what you would like your tree house to look like and start getting ideas on paper. Go ahead and get a tree house. If you want a roof on it, add a roof on it. If you want windows and doors, add those. If you want a ladder, add that. Let me show you how to do a door. So it's the same exact way that we've drawn everything else. We're going to start with vertical lines. Always start with a vertical line. I'm drawing a door on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and connect my vertical line to the same vanishing point that anything on this wall. So this line connects to this vanishing point, so this one will connect here. Like that. And then we're going to create and I didn't draw the line all the way, but you can if you want, if that helps you. You can draw it all the way. And then another vertical line to create your doorway, just like that. So now we have a door. That line's a little crooked, but if it were vertical, it would look a little better. All right. Okay, Now we can make our door look three-dimensional by, we can make it look like we're looking into our door by putting a door jamb there. So we can just do another vertical line right here. We can actually connect this corner to this vanishing point to get a little line that shows us the depth of our door jamb, just like that. You can see that. And then just a line that connects to our vanishing point there. Yeah. So now it looks like we can see into our doorway. Now I want to show you quickly how to make a ladder. I've got lots of smudges on my paper, and that's fine. I want to show you quickly how to make a ladder. You're going to start by making some vertical lines, and I'm going to use the measurements on my ruler. You do not have to do it. You can just kind of guesstimate how large they're going to be, but I'm going to make a line every ½ inch for my ladder. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my treehouse, and I'm going to skip ½ inch, and then I'm going to draw ½ inch line, and I'm going to skip ½ inch, and then draw ½ inch, and then skip ½ inch, and then draw ½ inch, skip half, draw half, and I'm just going to do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to do one more here. So I started with a bunch of vertical lines. Now these ladder steps are going to be on the same side of the building as the doorway. So I'm going to connect each one of these lines to the vanishing point there. So let me show you how I do that. I'm going to turn this just to make it a little easier for myself. I like to put my pencil on the top of the line, just stick my pencil point there, and then the ruler hits my pencil point, and then I line it up with the vanishing point. That helps me know where the line needs to be. Remember not to draw these too dark. I drew that one kind of dark. So my pencil point here, line it up with the vanishing point, draw the line. My pencil point here, line it up with the vanishing point, draw the line. I'm going to keep doing this all the way down. Pencil point, vanishing point, pencil point, vanishing point, pencil, vanishing point, pencil here, vanishing point, pencil here. I'm doing this all the way down. This is my last one. Okay, so these are the rungs of my ladder. Now to get the other side of my ladder, I just need to choose where I want those lines to be, and I'm just going to make vertical lines this way, just like that. You can see it. Now I can erase all these guidelines. Just come in and erase. That's when it comes in handy not to draw too dark so that you're not keeping a bunch of stuff you don't need. Okay, so that's one side of our ladder. But if you take a look at this one, you can see that my ladder rungs have depth to them. They're three-dimensional. And so I need to get this other end and sometimes the top of them so that I will know where those need to go. So in order to do that, I'm going to take this to vanishing point number 2, the top of my ladder board to vanishing point number 2. And again, I can draw it all the way out, or I don't have to. I could just draw a little line. It'll leave me less erasing to do if I don't draw the whole thing. So I line it up, but I only draw that much of it just to give myself a little less erasing work to do. So I'm just doing some little lines here. Okay. Again, make sure you're lining it up with the vanishing point every single time in order for it to work correctly. See, that was a little bit wonky, so I'll just erase and fix it. Line it up with the vanishing point. Okay. Line it up. Line it up. And and line it up. All right, so now we have a little bit more depth to these. I'm going to use another vertical line to just establish how deep they actually are, just like that. So that's the thickness of them. I can erase any extra stuff. And the tops of these, I should be able to see because these are below the horizon line. Now, just like when I was above the horizon line, to show the top or bottom of something, we have to do a crisscross. So I'm going to take this line on the right-hand side and line it up with the left, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do all my right-hand side ones first, just to make it easier for myself. Make sure to line it up with the vanishing point. And my first one was on the horizon line. That's the horizon line right there. So I won't see the top of that one. You can see as you move down, you see a little more of the top of every one. And then I'm going to line up my left-hand side with my right-hand vanishing point here. Here we go. There. And, oops. Got to line it up. And there. Okay, and so now we can erase any lines or smudges that are outside. It might be handy to have a separate eraser if you have one, but this will help you. Let me see if I can get that to, there we go. Now we can draw, you can see here that I have drawn, let me get it to focus again. I have drawn a little rope, and all I did was create 2 lines and then made some diagonal lines to make it look like a rope. And where the rope connected, I made a curved line right there. Just kind of like I did the curved line of my tree. I used a curved line to create the rope. Now, you can add additions onto your tree house. You can see here that I've added an additional box onto my tree house. I've added another, a little porch onto my tree house over here. All I did was make more cubes on top of cubes. So if I wanted to add an addition, this is the last thing I'm going to show you today. If I wanted to add an addition onto my tree house, I just start same thing. I make a vertical line. I connect those lines to the vanishing points. I've done that here. I started with this vertical line, connected it to the vanishing points on either side. I connected the bottom, crisscrossed the bottoms to the vanishing points to create this space. I made the windows the same as I did right here. Just again, follow the vanishing point. Follow the vanishing point that the side of the wall that you're on follows. So your job this week is to try to get your tree. You're going to start with the 2 vertical lines of your tree, just like we did here, nice and light. You're going to get the box of your tree house drawn. If you want to add a roof, go ahead and add that. If you want to add any additional details like a porch or an additional box onto your tree house, please go ahead and do that. Add as much detail, fun detail to your tree house as you would like. That is what your goal is for this week. Next week, when we come back together, I want to see what you've created, and I'm going to talk to you about how to add some of these other fun details and add color so that you can really bring this work of art to life. So I'm going to stop sharing this. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. You are welcome to unmute if you would like. I'm happy to answer questions over voice, or if you have questions that you don't want to voice, you can throw them in the chat box. But next week, I would love to see your finished or close to finished or progress on your 2-point perspective treehouse. So that's what I'm hoping to see. Any questions? Any questions for me, guys?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, I am excited to see what you guys create. I'm excited to see what you're able to make with your 2-point perspective tree houses. Use those practice sheets that I gave you. So your 1-point perspective practice sheet and your 2-point perspective practice sheets, those are just there to help you get the hang of it. So use those practice sheets. If you need extra copies, you can download them right there in the chat box. I dropped them in the chat box, so you can download them from there and print them if you need to. And lots and lots of practice. If you got a kit from us, you have about 3 sheets of paper to use on this project. So you can try this, you know, multiple times. Try it on the front, try it on the back. If you mess up, just erase. Your eraser is your friend when you're working with perspective. You have to do lots of erasing anyway to get it all down. So don't let that stress you out. Just practice, practice. And I know you guys are going to create some awesome tree houses. I can't wait to see what you make. I will see you guys in 2 weeks, not next Monday, but the next Monday. Log back on here and we will see you then. I'm excited to see you. Bye, guys.